In today's video, you will learn how to make Turkish coffee using the big grind size. How big exactly? Like for filter coffee. I've spent a few days for the research and now we have a pretty stable approach. And in this video, we're gonna use strainer, because particles will be big enough to filter them. And while we're using big grind size, some coffee might float, some particles of coffee. Previously I had a pretty bad experience with the big grind size, and I didn't want to use coarser than for espresso. So espresso was the biggest grind size which I was comfortable with. But even without straining, for some coffee, this method will work well enough. Some coffee particles will still may float, even if you use small grind size. This may be the game changer, because that way you will be able to drink more coffee, meaning more liquid, and it will be suitable for big jazva. As for the grind size, we're gonna use like sugar to touch, 3.0 on Kino M47 and like 20-22 clicks on Commandante C40. And it is probably 14 clicks on Baratz and Core. And what we're gonna do now? First of all, we're gonna prepare our stopwatch. It's because we're gonna mix every minute. We're not gonna use too high flame output, power output, and first of all, mix before brewing, just to get the coffee wet. So why we're gonna mix it 3 times? Because we're gonna get rid of these big particles at the top. Like in my original approach, we're gonna use foam as an indicator for controlling the readiness of our coffee. And as you can see, it starts to go up right away. As for the mixing 3 times, I found that it is enough to mix just 3 times. First of all, we need to heat up the water so it will dissolve CO2 and oils from the coffee particles more effectively. So the biggest issue with the grind size, with such grind size, is that the particles maintain a lot of CO2. And that way they create a crust layer, so we don't have any control and it will boil out. And that way we beat CO2 from the particles and dissolve it, because liquid becomes hotter and hotter, and that way it is easier for CO2 to be released. So it's our second mix and it's espresso roast. And it works even with 2 mixing, at least currently. But we'll make 3rd mixing. Our goal is to have foam layer at the top. And in this case, I see that I will not mix it at 3 minutes because it will heat up quicker. I could have used slower heat application. So it's like 2:30 because it starts to rub at the sides. Our goal is to have a clean foam layer. And how we check if it's ready or not? We're gonna use the boiling or the movement. So when it boils or moves, one or the other, we're gonna take it off so it boils. So the movement is more aggressive and we're ready to strain it. And it worked extremely well. So as you've seen, there was a motion and boiling. So when the foam starts to change its shape, like from one side it could boil out and overflow. This overflowing is the signal that you need to take it off. And actually this method is even simpler than regular control of the foam, because here you have more balance because you mix the coffee particles and they will evenly extract the flavor. But with the big jazva, where you use 38 grams of coffee, it is hard. So I've tried, the coffee was great, and I mixed only 2 times back then. So it works even with the big jazva, but be sure to mix it well, so you have a clear foam layer without particles protruding from it. And you can squeeze the mixing. So if you brew within 3 minutes, it's probably better to mix at 30 seconds, minute and 130. And in my case, I brew within 4, 3:30, and there is enough space to have no motion of the foam. And let's make another one. This is 200 milliliter pot. I'm gonna use washed processed coffee for filter, and we'll show you 12 grams of coffee here. Usually I brew 14 grams in this jazba. And I prefer to use lower dose for bigger grind size because it will boil out more. So overall there is more attention, but as the result you achieve a great cup of coffee with any coffee. And in my experience is better in terms of balance. Like, it's easier to get proper cup of coffee. And of course you will use a strainer, easier to clean the cup. And as a result you will not clog the drainage. And that's a great part. And it started to go up earlier, higher flame output. So I'm gonna mix once again, but I could skip it because it started to move already. It's not necessary. So the main thing is to just have a clean view at the top, because this coffee is pretty old, it's already degassed. And you can see it brews like regular coffee. Like, you see it rubs, you can control it, and when it's rubbed, you can see darker rim. It boils out like a regular grind size, and you can see it's huge, like the motion. So what we've learned today, that it is totally doable to use coarser grind size than espresso. I've used the regular grind size which I'm using for proper coffee. Like, I don't even need to change it to make Turkish coffee. And the flavor will be more intense than brewed in a cup, etc. So it's still Turkish coffee, it still has these vibes, and complexity is higher. Intensity is higher because of the ratio 1:10. And it is still easy to control. So you've seen, the main thing to worry about is the rubbing and motion of the foam and crack. So the crack, when foam starts to lift and from somewhere it starts to overflow, it's the first sign. And the second one, with this jazz we've seen, that there could be just a normal motion of the foam with the rubbing. So you see the rub, the foam color will not be that dark as with the smaller grind size, because it's small particles that create this dark color. And here we just see that it's started to move, rub inside, and it's a sign that you need to take it off. So there is no need to know how much exactly to rub, like in a regular small grind size. Here we just need some motion to start, and usually it will be enough, because with the mixing, with agitation, we increase the extraction, and because it's a big particles, they need agitation, otherwise it will not be brewed completely. So this particle which will float, if you will not mix it, they will not extract that well, because in some cases water could not even go inside the coffee particle because there is a gas and it's blocking water to dissolve the material, makes the extraction. And the coffee that you get, first of all, for summer, it's nicer because you can, first of all, use these for cold coffee. You can throw some ice cube in here and you will have cold coffee right away because it's strained. You can add milk, etc. Overall, it is lighter, it's not that intense like Americano, it's somewhere in the middle between Americano and pour-over coffee, and it is great. With this coffee, especially Uganda, the flavors are more visible with the bigger grind size. And that's what Alexander Nikolai likes with jazz, likes to do. He likes to use coarser grind size to have more clarity in a beverage, but still you will have body, a lot of body here. Definitely worth trying. Let me know in the comments what you've got. Did it help you to improve your coffee brewing experience or not? And by the way, I've opened my own store, like I've previously used eBay and Etsy combination because I couldn't sell on Etsy, which I can on eBay, and now I have everything in my store. And what's important, if you have some question, like I'm not always in the comment section, because if you reply to some comment, I may not see it. And if you want some fast answer, you can use chat on the site, because I receive notification on the phone immediately and it's easier. The site is not only about store, because here I have the blog, in which you will find more structured information. And cold brew, I will not make a video, and you will have my experience when I brewed it for my local channel. So you can check it out, blog, how to use Turkish coffee, like nice articles, very useful. And I'm already added some coffee sets because it's like the price is way nicer. 2 bags versus 3 bags almost. As for the sediment, you will still have some because it's a small grind size. Small particles will be here still. And it's not that big of a deal because still at the bottom of the cup. So you will not drink it. Way more liquid you can drink with a bigger grind size.